It's just touching the front of that tooth. That's exactly where I want it for a good sharpening. And it just glanced off the top of here. You'll hear it more on the next tooth because I'm going to shut up. Hey, Howard here at 82 Maple. And in the first video that I did on saw sharpening and the Norwood Blade Mate Pro Sharpener, there's a link to that down below. I talked about why I always start sharpening at the weld. But at that moment, I didn't have a blade that I hadn't already thrown in the dumpster and been packed away that demonstrated exactly what it looks like when you get a badly welded blade. What I mean by badly welded is the spacing between the teeth is incorrect, and what that does when you go to sharpen the blade. As luck would have it, the first 5 blades I got from Norwood were badly welded, and I destroyed them all through my naivety. You can work around it, and one of the tricks to working around it is keep a logbook. I don't know how much of this you can see, but I've just noted here that blade number 28 has a bad weld space. And so when I go to resharpen this, and you can see how I log it, like this blade went to the dumpster. 27 has 3 sharpenings. 28, which I'm working on now, this will be the second sharpening. And blade 29, I pulled out of the box. I've used it. I've sharpened it once. No, sorry. I've used it, and this will be the first sharpening. I'm sitting here in the shop. I keep 3 blades on the fly at all times and ready to go. And then I rotate those so I can get a few hours of sawing and I can track what's happening with them. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so here's the weld. Let me just pull it up. You can see it. It's been welded right there. At least I'm hoping you can see it. I'm gonna try and get some light on it. Okay, it's in there. We're setting up. Click. Okay, there. I'm clearing things. Okay. You see that come down? Listen carefully. Scritch. You heard a little bit of scritch right at the top of the tooth. I would like a little bit more, so I'm just gonna back down this set like the teensiest and tiniest of turns. Okay. It's just touching the front of that tooth. That's exactly where I want it for a good sharpening. And it just glanced off the top of here. You'll hear it more on the next tooth because I'm going to shut up. There, you heard that? That is exactly where I want it. Now, watch what happens. Coming down the face, perfect. Whoa, what's this? What is that? Got my carpenter pencil here, not that this is an accurate measurement. But if I pull that back to where it was, I can get a full carpenter pencil lead almost through between there. That's not the bad part. Having one unsharpened tooth, not a big deal in my books. It's what happens next. Boom! Well, that's not where I want the sharpener landing. It's gonna rip that face right off of that tooth. So now what we have is the blade is turning at pretty good speed around those wheels. I've torn this tooth down, so there's no tooth there. I'm going to have a decent tooth here. I'm going to have a decent tooth here. So the blade actually will pick up momentum between this tooth and this tooth, putting undue pressure there And that caused premature blade failure in those first 5 blades. And I thought having a Norwood Hobbyist HD 36 sawmill meant I had to live with blades coming through the side cover. I'll throw a link down below to exactly what those covers looked like and what I had to do about it. And so now I continue this drops, I've ripped that tooth off, and I go back to something resembling normalcy. What we're talking about is undue pressure between this tooth and this tooth in the area of the weld because we carved a big chunk out of this tooth. You know what? That's not going to break a blade, but there's a compounding effect that happens here that I completely ignored in my naivety as I was getting started on this. And to kind of walk us through it, I'm going to end up kind of sacrificing this blade in the interests of blade science. Of course, hey, this is too much fun. So we're gonna back it up, and I'll pop this up and out of the way. I'll get that out of there, get my blade, there we go. Okay, so get my blade advance arm out of the way. I'm going to let this down. In fact, we'll back it up even a little bit more just so we can go through that entire exercise again. Okay, so listen for the sounds. I want it just a tiny bit more there. Okay, now, love it. I'm going to start this up. And yes, horror of horrors, we're going to let the grinding wheel fall where it may. Whoa. And this blade is not really in need of a full-blown sharpening. I'm doing more of a touch-up. It's close to a full sharpening, but I'd maybe be dropping it a little bit more to clear out that gullet if this was a full sharpening. And this is kind of the pace that I would move it along at. It doesn't take a lot to keep your blade sharp. The other error I made early on was over grinding. Over grinding, and I think I mentioned this in the first video, puts a lot of heat on those teeth. Heat, of course, takes out the temper. And that's not a good thing for blade steel. I'm not sure how much the camera is picking up on the far side, but I can see my blade weld working its way around, and we're now closing in on 2/3 done. Doesn't take long to sharpen a blade. Okay, you can see the little red dot coming around. I'm gonna slow this down. We're about 5 teeth out. There, I just really wrecked another tooth because I had abused that tooth by not watching what I was doing and just letting. So back up. Let's assume that instead of starting on the weld or close to the weld, I start back here somewhere sharpening the blade, or at any other point on this blade. And I knock that tooth off because I don't realize until it's too late that this spinning grinding wheel is going to come right down. And look at the different shape of that tooth compared to that tooth, compared to that tooth. And so now my blade advance mechanism hit that tooth at the wrong spot. There's missing material. So this tooth gets wrecked. And look at, I've got a pretty much upright stance. It's going to keep exaggerating, and through 4 or 5 sharpenings, I'm going to end up with 3 or 4 ineffective teeth here. And you compound that by the fact that this weld has gone around those saw wheels a lot of times at that point, by the time you're sharpening for the 4th or 5th time. And the added stresses, everything compounds. And what do you see? Well, the result is inevitable. And hopefully one avoids bodily injury as those saw blades pierce the side of the guards. Hey, you know what? I'm really intent on keeping the 8 fingers and the 2 thumbs that I was born with. And hey, happy blade sharpening to you. I hope that partially sacrificing a blade is of use and of value. Looking forward to your comments, looking forward to your questions. Here's to the journey.